We have to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's a profit machine. And the more that you want to talk about it, that may reduce the profit, the more it threatens it.
The head of obstetrics, you're Nazi propagandist filmmakers.
What?
We're so set up to just think that hospital setting, that the doctors know what's best for us. I think when you're not sick, when you're not having some emergency, being pregnant is not an emergency waiting to happen. When you change the mindset of that woman and empower her that she is perfect, exactly,
Yeah.
Our bodies are capable of doing that.
That's a very high stake risk when you're looking at death, but just the fact that we're now only recently figuring out that it's actually messing with the hormones of young women. Does the movie talk about the long-term effects of being on it?
We don't even know what the long-term effects are. It changes who you are, like foundationally. It changes your personality. It's a big deal. They make it seem like it's candy.
Whatever you pack, just take another pill.
If you're making a big decision but told it's not, then that's not a free choice. You're being coerced.
They really had a big problem with you guys doing this film. Why did they want to shut you up?
I think we were
creating cosmos out of chaos.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your hospitality.
Yes, having us in your beautiful, beautiful home.
It's a sacred space to me, and it's an honor to have you guys here. So thank you for coming. Thank you for making this happen.
Yes.
Oh my God.
No.
It's a.
I'm normally very available. Like I'm normally, I joke that since moving into this house, I'm a lady of leisure, but my schedule, I'm suddenly working again, and I've been traveling again, and so it's just the timing of you guys being here. It's just, this just worked out. So
It's
I'm
super
happy.
serendipitous.
Yes.
I love it. It's funny too, because at the beginning of this podcast idea, like very, very beginning of idea, and it's been a long journey to get here, but it was like, if we were to do a podcast and if there was 5 people that have affected us, and because of your movie, The Business of Being Born, you were like on that
You were on that top 5. Ricki
So
Lake.
I wore my manifest shirt. I wore my manifest shirt because somehow and then the serendipitousness of this actually coming, like you said, like the small window just for us too, and it's like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I love talking about the business of being born and who I became, along the journey of becoming a mother and being a public figure and wanting to make a project that was impactful and like deeply affecting people, it was never a planned thing. Like it was a calling to make this film, and I didn't even know it was a film. It was Abby that kind of saw what my vision was at the time. And she's like, I think it's a documentary, but it was a calling after 9/11. We were talking before we started talking.
Yeah.
And, I'm someone that was like famous for a long time, from John Waters movies to doing my talk show. And it was 9/11, September 11th. I was living in New York. I had just had my home birth that's in the movie 2 months before 9/11. So in that same spot, that same sacred space that I had come into my power in a way I'd never had in my entire life. 2 months later, I thought the world was coming to an end from that very same spot. And it was just, I had an epiphany during that moment of watching the second plane fly down the Hudson River. I lived in the West Village. I had an apartment with a 360 view of Manhattan from the West Village. And so we went to the roof after the small plane. So my husband and my 4-year-old went with me to the roof of my building, and my 2-month-old was with my nanny in my apartment. And I watched the plane fly down the Hudson and hit the building. And it was just in that moment that first of all, I really thought that was the end of the world, and I thought to myself, if I live through this day, I'm leaving New York, I'm leaving this show, my job, and I'm ultimately leaving this marriage. And it was clear as day. Like I just and then it was after, that day I had to go back to work and do my show. And I remember just going back 2 days later and looking at these topics, and at the, it was like my hoochie mama, baby daddy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my God, like the world is like, we are under attack. We are like the National Guard is in my neighborhood. We're on complete lockdown. And this is what I'm sort of doing in my career. And so not to poo-poo the show was an amazing platform. I'm so grateful I had it. I'm actually doing a whole podcast about my old show, and it was really impactful in a lot of amazing ways that I didn't have a sense of at the time, but I really soul searched about what was I passionate about? Where do I feel like I could make a difference? And it was my birth experiences of both my children, my two sons, one in a hospital setting and one at home. And I wanted to explore, like, why are like these really smart friends of mine, why do they not seem to be interested in how their baby is born? Like how, like they didn't seem to care about being connected to that experience. And I just thought it was kind of crazy. And so it wasn't about pushing any sort of agenda, but I wanted to just kind of ask the questions, and that turned into this film that I think has been the most impactful thing I'll do in my lifetime. I mean, I honestly do. I just think this was my mark. I love midwifery. I love being pregnant. I loved giving birth. I still love it. Like I still can remember he's 21. That baby is 21. And I still remember that day of just tapping into my primal goddess power and what I did on my own terms with no one saving me, with no doctor or hospital or patriarchy. Like I was in my home with the people I wanted and I did it. You know, you see in the movie, I'm still talking about it. I pull my son out of me, but that stays with you long after you have that baby and become a mom. Like that power is just something that I still like got me through a lot of tough times. And yeah.
It's so beautiful the way you speak about it, because I can so relate to what you mean about this power that you finally got to feel as a woman. It's an energy that is so hard to put into words. Because when you're in that moment, and I remember that scene in the movie of you giving birth, and it was like, wow, because there was this one scene I remember, which was really funny. You were going through really difficult contraction. And I remember it's something you guys were saying, that there's like that moment right before the baby's ready where every woman feels like she's going to give up. And I think you had it. And there's that scene where an ambulance was driving by and you're like, that's my ride.
I said, that's my ride. Get me the hell out of here.
That. I was like, that was a funny moment and like such a really powerful scene. But, you know, honestly, you and everything that you did from your story and how you shared it in that movie and what you guys put together with that movie, like we were saying earlier, like it changed our life. You know, I remember I was 5 months pregnant and really lost in a way of where I wanted to give birth. Canadian system at that time was scaring the shit out of me. Like you were hearing stories, this was during COVID, women had to wear masks, had to be birthing alone in the hospital. You couldn't have the father there. You couldn't have any family member. You were so isolated in this like, you know, sterile room. And I knew, I was like, I don't want to have that kind of experience. And I wasn't really sure, like, well, there's this home birthing or birthing centers, but you like kind of when you think about it, well, that's really scary. Like that's kind of the message that you're given, right, from mainstream media. And so I just started looking online in the business of being born somehow.
Oh, so you hadn't seen the film until you were 5 months pregnant?
Yes. Wow. And I remember we were at Mark's cottage on a lake in a little town just outside of Toronto in Canada. And one evening I put it on and I remember I watched the whole documentary and then the movie finished and I just sat there because it was just, my mind was blown of all of the ideas and the information that you guys were able to share. And it helped me really connect with something that I was feeling, but I was so scared to admit that I wanted to feel that experience. I wanted to feel all of these sensations and like the power and all of these things that you describe. And so you guys literally, that movie and everything you put together was the reason why after that I was finding midwives in Costa Rica, doulas in Costa Rica. I was asking all my friends in the little community in Nosara, like, what do I do? And I ended up, wanting to have the home birth experience, but also have the safety of a hospital nearby. So we ended up going to San Jose, which is the capital of Costa Rica.
So you had an Airbnb.
We had an Airbnb, but an Airbnb that was close to a private hospital, just in case.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, you want to have just that I forget what it's called, but it's my brain isn't working, but like the backup. You want to have you trust your body. You're having a low risk pregnancy. You trust your care provider, and you want that backup system of having an obstetrician in place. I would imagine you saw your obstetrician once, right? Just
It was
late
a
in the
couple
pregnancy.
times, yeah. But in San Jose too, it was very holistic. They just wanted you to make sure everything was good. But yes, the team that was around me was amazing. And again, it was finally I understood what a doula was. I understood what a midwife was. I had no idea before I watched The Business of Being Born.
It was crazy because we put that movie on knowing like all we've been taught from society. And I think that's what's so special about a movie like that. And to know that there's no education on options, and there's an entire industry being built that takes the power away from women and makes massive amounts of profit. And not to say that it's for everyone, but what it should be for everyone is the understanding that there's a choice.
Informed choice.
That's it.
Yep.
And so it's not like, oh, we're so special we did it this way. It's like, no, we're special because Juliana got to make a choice.
Right.
And it was informed. And it was like literally like a movie that you made about your personal experience that's stronger than anything out there as alternatives, to us at least, that we could find. And it's crazy that had to happen. It's beautiful that was the way it went down. But it's also like, holy shit.
How did you find the movie? Like, did someone recommend it?
I think it was.
I think it was at first. I was watching Ellen Fisher. Do you know Ellen Fisher? She's this YouTuber. Her whole YouTube channel is about this beautiful holistic family she has. She's home birthed 5 children, and that's the information she gives. And I remember she did a video about certain resources about home birthing, and I think the movie was there.
It's the resource, yeah.
And then Ina May Gaskin's books
Yes,
as well.
yes.
So that was something I went to, and then also I started looking at the documentary. I also watched The Farm as well.
Yes, because we did the follow-up series. Because after we finished the film, there were so many questions that people still had. It was so much to pack into an 85-minute film. And so I got to go down on the farm. You saw the footage of us with Ina May, and that was like a dream come
How
true.
was that experience?
It was surreal. I mean, it was surreal. And it's, meeting all the old midwives from the 70s, Pamela was my favorite. I joked when I was meeting Pamela, I was like, I just want to climb up in her uterus. I just felt like this ultimate maternal vibe. And Ina May was amazing. This was in 2008. We went down there, and she also came to the premiere of The Business of Being Born. So we premiered at Tribeca in 2007, and Ina May was in the audience. It was one of the best nights of my life, honestly. And when she stood up at the end and she just said, "This is the best film ever made on birth." And I was just like, I just almost passed out. It was really something. And, at the time, we took a lot of heat from the medical world. I mean, ACOG came after us, American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. The AMA targeted us in a resolution, me personally. Yeah, because it was just, there was so much backlash of we were showing something they didn't want really to be seen of what really does go on in a hospital setting. And so it was, it's a weird thing because I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert on anything. I'm a mother, and I've had my own experience, but I just it's a fine line. Like, people, who does she think she is? She's not a doctor. But I feel like with Abby and what happened to my director, Abby Epstein, during the course of her pregnancy that we follow, because she got pregnant halfway in the making of the movie, not expecting. I mean, it was just kind of happened, and then she became sort of the third act.
Yeah.
And then what happened to her balanced the movie, because she was planning this home birth. And it just was one of those, again, serendipity or divine planning, whatever it is. But I think, we made a movie that, isn't propaganda. It's not, we don't really even have an agenda. We just want women to have access to the information to make an informed choice when it comes to their bodies and their babies,
Expert, quote unquote, or not. I mean, you are an experienced mother for have gone through that, and to share that, that makes you more qualified than so many people out there who are like, what is she like? You got to be fucking kidding me.
Especially because your first birth, you were saying it was in the hospital, right, with your first son, and then so was that something that inspired you to also talk about?
So what happened? So I wasn't looking to make documentaries. I was a talk show host. I was really happy making my talk show. I was making a lot of money, living in a great apartment. My life was I really thought I was going to have kids and stay in New York forever and ever and ever. after that birth experience, so he was born in March of 97, and I was at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, which had a birth center attached to it. And so I was supposed to deliver. So here's what happened. Let me just go back and tell you so I'm the daughter of a pharmacist. So I grew up, when you get a headache, you take codeine. Like I am not anti-pharma even.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more anti-pharma now with the new work I do with the business of birth control and stuff. But I mean, like I am not the prototype for a home birth mom.
Of course.
At all.
Yeah.
You know? And so I happened to, when I was I'm a Virgo and I'm a type A. So I plan, like I'm a control freak. And so when I was, I'm 26 years old. I want to start having a family. I've been married for 3 years. I'm on this show. I'm making all this money. I want to have a baby. It was like that. Yeah. And so I happened to have a friend of a friend who had her baby in the birth center at St. Luke's Roosevelt. And had this, and I saw her the day after when she came home, and she's holding this perfect, beautiful baby, and she's telling me this birth story of how she gave birth naturally in this birth center with a midwife. And I was like, that's what I want. I want that, And that's when I got to bug up my ass about that and got pregnant. I'm one of these people. I got pregnant the first time I tried with my son Milo. And March of 97, when I gave birth, I was having my baby at that birth center. Well, there's protocols and rules that you have to follow. So my water broke in dramatic fashion at 5 a.m. in my apartment in the Village, not the same apartment where I saw 9/11, a different one. And once I called my midwife, my water broke. That starts the clock.
Right.
So if you don't progress in 24 hours, then you can't be in the birth center. They move you to the regular hospital floor. And I was shattered. Like and again, you have to surrender, the whole, it's a real lesson in just anyone who's a control freak. You have no control over what's going to happen when you're having a baby. But so I felt like a failure. I felt like my body, and I had a failure to progress, which is a horrible name. And they hooked me up to an IV, and they gave me a drug called Stadol, and they gave me an epidural. Like I had all the cascade of intervention that we talk about in the film.
Yeah.
And I pushed for 2.5 hours. I did end up having a vaginal birth. It was a total success story, a healthy baby, healthy mom, but it was just the process. When I looked at it afterwards, I was just like, why did they give me that drug? I got all paranoid and I got all nauseous and this happened and this happened. Like I just looked at it and I was like, I didn't think any of that was medically necessary, And so I thought to myself, if I do it again, I'm doing it differently. And it was shortly after I gave birth that I heard about, there was a conference in New York at the Open Center called The Art of Birthing. And so I just was, I got to bug up my ass about this. I was never a great student. I never finished college. I was never fired up about anything. I was an actor, but this was the first time in my life that I felt inspired to want to learn more about this world. And so I went to the conference by myself. I signed up. I saw Ina May Gaskin speak. I saw Robbie Davis-Floyd, this anthropologist. I saw Michel Odent, that French doctor who's in our film. I saw this midwife from, I think she was from Bolivia, and she was in her 80s. And I was just like, I mean, you see it in the film. I think we went, there was another, this wasn't the first conference I went to, but I kept going. Yeah. And we have footage of me going to the conference. But I remember the first time I saw this 80-year-old midwife from Bolivia, and she's talking, she has the accent, she's a little tiny indigenous woman, and she's talking about how she's never given an never given an episiotomy. And she's talking about how they use this compress with hot oil and they put it on the woman's perineum, and she's just explaining this, and just all of this is just clicking in my head of like, why doesn't everybody know this? Why is this art is being sort of taken away because of the bottom line, because of fear of litigation, because of all these reasons that have nothing to do with what is best for mother and baby. And so it just fired me up, and it just made me, I wanted to become a midwife. I actually was like,
Really?
That was never going to happen. No way. I don't even like the sight of blood. So that was never, ever going to really happen. But I felt like I could be a midwife for the midwives, or a voice, or and just kind of, use my whatever I have, which is like this mainstream audience that likes me and relates to me and trusts me, and I could share my story authentically, and that's what turned into this film and this trajectory of my career. Making these films about women's reproductive health, and I love it. I love it. I'm proud of it. I feel like I've left my mark after The Business of Being Born came out, and now 14 years later to see the impact and the change. I mean, there's still so, I mean, our system is so awful and fucked up still. I mean, it's in some ways, I mean, the maternal death rates in our country and Black women's health, I mean, all of it, it feels like it's worse, like we've gone backwards. But I know what a service this movie has been for so many, and it's given my life meaning and purpose, and it's the most impactful and important thing I've ever done.
Honestly, it's like the life preserver in a sea of confusion. Because like you're saying, things are seemingly to extrapolate worse as far as the medical system goes, as far as just like the narrative and basically just the general culture under, like, I don't know, I guess it's not really an understanding, but like the concept that medicalization is the answer, that science is the answer, that progress
The
means
doctor knows best.
doctor always knows best. So to have this kind of information accessible, it's a life preserver for people that feel like, because I know that Juliana had this feeling that this isn't right.
It's this instinctual feeling that we have because we're part of nature. And in nature, like our bodies as women have been created to give birth just on our own. I mean, you hear even stories of free birthing.
Yes.
You know, women that just go out and do it. Like, I think to me, that may be a little too extreme for me personally.
And for me personally as well.
But there are women who do that.
Yes.
And it gives you that reassurance, like, yes, our bodies are capable of doing this, but then we're just fed with all this fear that we're not powerful enough, that we can't do it, that there's a chance or risk of this and this and this, that we're just being pushed into this corner. And I remember there's something that reminded me for myself when I was home birthing. I remember it was after my water broke, and I remember looking down, and I looked at my stomach, and they were going like this, like on its own, and my arms went out. I'm like, I'm not doing anything here. My body is taken over. Like there's like the nature is working. It's doing what it's supposed to do. And it was like, wow, that is so powerful.
It's amazing.
It's so amazing.
No, I just get chills. I never get sick of hearing beautiful birth stories, you know, not just natural birth. Like you can be empowered in a hospital setting if you go into the information, because let's face it, what is the home birth rate? It's like not even 2%. It's like still 1%. But so the movie is really for people that are going to be in a hospital setting to know what to expect.
Which is important as well, because finally understanding what is Pitocin, what is an epidural, why do I need it? All of these things that, yes, of course, every woman should have the choice to make whatever decision she needs to so she feels safe. And that's something that you guys did really well as well in the film. Talk about that. Maybe home birthing isn't for everybody. Maybe you feel the most comfortable in a safe environment in a home birthing center, or maybe it is a hospital, whatever it is. Everybody's different, but it's understanding that this is your choice to make, not anybody else's.
And you need to advocate for yourself. You know, you really do. You do know better than anybody else about your body, you know, and you want to be safe, and you want to have all the, you know, the ducks lined up for, you know, to be close enough to a hospital if something does come up, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
But why do you think that they really had a big problem with you guys doing this film? Why did they want to shut you up?
I think we were threatening to, I mean, I remember because we went, so I said I gave birth to my first son at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital. We brought, when the film, right before it was coming out, we screened it for grand rounds at the very hospital where I delivered Milo and where Abby delivers Mateo in the movie. And we thought, I mean, I don't know what we thought. We were so naive. I certainly didn't think we were going to be attacked. And we were attacked, like screamed at. Like the guy, the head of obstetrics, like screaming, "You're Nazi propagandist filmmakers."
What?
Oh yeah. And it was like we were two little deer in the headlights, just like I didn't know, I never expected that. You know, I'm America's sweetheart. I've done my talk show. Everyone loves me. And it was just, we touched a nerve. Yeah. And that was, I mean, was it our intention? I mean, I didn't think our little movie would have that power, you know? And it was definitely, I mean, it was well received critically, you know, as a movie, but it was just years later that like we were showing the truth. There was nothing fabricated.
No, for sure.
That all of our films are heavily vetted, and maybe they didn't like a light being shown on them and that veil being pulled back.
Right.
But I think it wasn't about them. It was about the consumer, you know, and yeah.
And as you move towards this new sort of I guess, chapter in your career, How did that feel? Like you had something very significant. You were a part of this 9/11 experience and the birth all at once. And what was the process like for you to make the change and then to actually also then meet the resistance from the establishment in the process of that?
You mean like quitting my show kind of
Quitting
thing?
your
Like,
show and
I mean, it wasn't as dramatic as that. My contract was coming to an end, and we both kind of chose not to renew it. It was, my show was based in New York. And New York, I love New York. I'm from New York. I'm born and raised. But it changed for me after 9/11. I just didn't feel safe. Like I felt like it's always going to be such a, it's the hub of the world. It's always going to be sort of vulnerable in a lot of ways. It's an island. And the idea of my children being separated, one at school here and one at school here and something happening. I don't know. Was it irrational to think of moving to California where there's earthquakes and whatever? I'm a bit of like an alarmist and I worry,
Yeah.
Maybe it's the Jewish part of me, but I don't know. I was done with that chapter. I mean, I think something about me, I like reinventing myself, and I really wanted to make an impact. Like I wanted my legacy to be more than just my talk show or she's the girl in a hairspray. Like I wanted to like leave my mark in a way that I felt like I was doing something of service,
Yeah.
And maybe that's like ego driven. I don't know. It was like a calling. It was like, I can't explain, but I just felt this calling of wanting to explore this world that I was so interested and passionate about. And it wasn't even, Abby, my partner, and Abby and I, we met on the Vagina Monologues. She was a theater director and she directed me in it. So like she and I were friends, and I told her my idea. It's like, I want to do a project about this. And I gave her my copy of Spiritual Midwifery, Ina May's book. Yeah. Robbie Davis-Floyd, the anthropologist that I saw, she has a book called America as a Birth as an American Rite of Passage. And I gave her my 9-hour home birth video that was on a camcorder. So this was back in 97. So it was like the little tape was in the cam. I gave her the camcorder. I had never watched my video at all. And I gave it to her. And she came back 2 weeks later and said, I think it's a documentary. And I said, okay, let's go. And I just started and I bought all the equipment and she started and off we went, and we couldn't get any funding. We couldn't get any help. No one, and even Abby wasn't even interested. She thought it would be boring. She thought, who cares about midwives? Like because she had never had a kid. She never thought about it. She thought I was crazy. And we just went on this 3.5-year crazy journey to making this film. I think it was divine. I think it was divine. Just, it was meant to happen, I guess,
I like that how you called it like a calling, like that's really interesting. Sometimes I think people feel that, and it takes a lot of courage to walk towards it, because I think a lot of people tend to shy away, because it had to be somewhat, I don't know for you, but for us, anytime we've been called into a new period of life to redefine ourselves, even just doing this podcast, like there's always so much resistance. And I mean,
my friends say I don't have the doubt gene. Like I just don't have. I jump feet first, and I pretty much land on my feet. Like, but not. It's not. I did not expect the reaction of St. Louis Roosevelt. Like I didn't. I also don't think things through. Like I'm very impulsive, and I'm in the moment.
Your heart.
Yeah, I do. I mean, for better or for worse.
No, that's beautiful.
But yeah, I've done crazy stuff. I've done really, really. People would think she's nuts, but so far it's worked out.
And then you have these associations like AMA and whatnot coming at you. And
yeah.
How does that feel in the moment?
That felt good, actually, because I knew we were onto something.
Yes.
Like we were reaching the masses. It was affecting them.
Yeah.
And and it's like years later, I went from being like attacked by that what do you call it? Like it's a like group,
association.
Yeah, association.
Yeah.
Thank you. To being revered, to being like given. Cedar Sinai gave me the Mother of the Year award. So it's just so funny. I mean, I just am walking my truth. Like I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to like shake up. I'm trying to just help other women. Like it's the movie I wish I had access to when I was first family planning. That's it. Yeah.
And you're also saying today that you guys are thinking to do a part 2.
We want to do an updated version. So we did, because with the business of birth control, which just came out this year, we did a double feature in New York at the same exact theater. Where I first saw Hairspray when I was 18 years old, the Waverly Theater in Greenwich Village in Manhattan. It might have a new name. I think it's still called the Waverly. And then we screened The Business of Being Born there in 2008. And then this year we brought The Business of Birth Control, and we did The Business of Being Born. And, watching that movie with an audience in a real theater, it is relevant. It is so,
Oh my
so,
gosh, yes.
so like as much, I think it's as relevant today as it was then. And it played really well. I mean, the quality of it, it's that grainy, crappy. We've been having issues putting it on Amazon because they say it's not up to speed quality wise, but it's like, that's how we made it back then. But yeah, it's really, and so yes, we want to do a 15-year anniversary we're talking about it now. Is it like an addendum? Are we doing a whole other series?
Yeah.
We're figuring it out now. But I think there's a whole new generation of women and couples and families that will want to see it again.
And I think there is a movement that's starting to happen, like a birth consciousness movement that more and more women are starting to open up to, especially with social media and so many more ways to start, taking in information. So having these type of resources. I mean, I don't even know how many times we recommended The Business of Being Born to our community. And we have a very large, female following, and a lot of people have thanked us for it as well. Like a lot
great.
of mothers and mothers to be. So, I think now more than ever, there's such a need for people and women to just have the information.
And to have that opportunity, because that's what it was like. It was being really stripped of women, going to the hospital. I remember I saw this woman speak. I'm trying to remember. And she was American, but she lived in Holland. And she was this woman, and she had 7 children, and she was, running around like she was pregnant with her 8th child. Wow. And she's like bossing, cleaning the windows before she's leaving for the hospital to give birth. And she's telling everyone what to do. And then she gets to the hospital, and she's like, is it okay if I open the curtains? Like, she immediately gave up her power, when she went into that hospital setting, And it was, I'm not telling the story very well, but it would move me at the time when I heard it. But we're so set up to just think that hospital setting, that the doctors know what's best for us. And I think when you're not sick, when you're not having some emergency, being pregnant is not an emergency waiting to happen. When you change the mindset of that woman and empower her that she is perfect, exactly, it's just an opportunity where women, I guess maybe I don't know, the patriarchy doesn't want women tapping into their power because they're afraid of what we're going to do with that,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that feeds nicely into the new movie that you guys are doing, which is also a little bit of sticking it to the establishment.
A little bit. Now we're taking on Big Pharma. Yeah. It's The Business of Birth Control is definitely a conversation starter. And it's been really difficult, particularly in this country, putting that film out because people don't want to have that conversation, particularly right now when our rights are being taken away with Roe v. Wade it's just, I get it. I really get it. But we started this movie 7-8 years ago. We were also making another film in the process. We were making We the People at the same time. So it took longer than it would have otherwise. But we started in 2013 or 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because it was stop, start.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just the timing of it coming out this year when this whole thing happened with Roe v. Wade. It's just, but we have to be able to have these nuanced conversations about our options,
Well, exactly. It's the idea of options and understanding that chemicals aren't always the solution,
Can you speak to just the premise of what?
Yes.
Of the movie itself.
So we were approached, Abby and I were, like I said, working on this other film about cannabis and medicinal cannabis when it comes to children with pediatric cancer. And that one's on Netflix right now. But Abby was sent the galley of a book called Sweetening the Pill by a writer named Holly Grigg-Spall, an English brilliant woman who basically wrote this book about her experience of being on the pill or on some synthetic birth control, and when she went off, she became a totally different person. She had no sense of who she was. She was trying to figure it out being off of these drugs, and so she wrote this book, really provocative, really well written. And so she sent it to Abby, thinking she wanted to make a film with us on it, and Abby read it, the galley, on the way out to visit me. We were doing a shoot for We the People. And she's like, I think this is our next film, And all the dots that were put together in the making of this film, just all these side effects that we were both on birth control I was on the pill for almost 2 decades. and I had hair loss. I didn't know that was a side effect. I mean, that's my own personal like piece of this is, you know, we have young women that have died from, you know, pulmonary embolisms on the drug. So basically what we did with birth, with the business of being born, is what we wanted to do with the business of birth control, is educate and empower women with information, because, you know, so much of what we learned is head spinning, you know, the fact that it changes your pheromones, like it changes who you're attracted to when you're on the pill, like it shuts you in menopause. It doesn't make your body think it's pregnant. It puts you don't have a cycle anymore, you know? So it's just, all these things were just like head spinning, mind blowing information that we wanted women to have access to.
And have you found resistance from the establishment again?
I mean, it's resistance as far as promotion, like mainstream media, you know, like I'm a big name and I go on all these shows and they love to talk about my new relationship and how I got through the loss of my other husband. And, you know, they love to talk about that, but they would not show a clip of the film.
Really?
Because Big Pharma is deeply tied to all of these, you know.
It challenges the sponsors.
Yeah. And I thought for sure, you know, like we've managed to sell all of our movies, and yeah, we don't have a buyer in the US. And so we've since gone to Europe. I just got back this week. I was in Berlin at the Berlin Human Rights Festival, and in London we screened it, and it did so well in the London screenings. We had 2 screenings. They're now Everyman Theater, which is Everyman Cinema is a theater group, and they're playing the film in like 30 theaters for a special event. Yeah. So it's much more well received, or they're much more open in other countries. But it's sobering for sure, because like this is information I think every woman, every teenage girl that's put on these drugs for not even contraceptive reasons, for acne or for bad period cramps or for regulating your cycle. I mean, you should know it's not regulating your cycle. It's stopping your cycle, you know? And so again, like I want to be really clear, we're not trying to scare women. We're trying to educate. And I don't care what a woman does with her body. I just want her to have access to the information.
Yeah. And so she can make her right decision for her body. I was on the pill for like 10 years before I went off 3 months before I went off, and then 3 months afterwards I got pregnant with Xavier.
You're very lucky. You're very lucky. Me too. I got off and I got pregnant the first time I tried. But a lot of women suffer with infertility. They have, you know, they can't get back to a normal cycle. I mean, it's, the fact that your body reacted so quickly is really, you're one of the lucky ones, I think.
Yeah, because I've heard stories also from other friends that it's taken them sometimes even a year to get their period back. And it just starts to make you think like, what are we actually taking? You know, it's just a little pill, and it's become such a habitual thing. Like, again, 10 years. I didn't think about it. I was like, I'm just taking my, you know, every new pack, just take another pill, like keeps me, you know, going. And
you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, you don't think about it. It's just a tiny little pill.
But the first one you took, right? Wasn't there issues?
The very first time I went on birth control myself, they put me on this one that was called like Yasmin.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, exactly. And I got a terrible reaction from it. I'd like got so bloated, and like I gained a lot of weight like super quickly. I was moody. It was the worst thing. And so I went to the doctor and said, look, something's happening with my body. They took me off and put me on a less. And that was the one I was on for like 10 years. And then afterwards, I remember there was some kind of information going out how, you know, if you had these side effects to Yaz, then to contact these companies, or I don't know, they were recalling it pretty much from what I could understand.
Well, it's still on the market as far as I know now. They probably have a new patent. I'm sure that I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's still on the market. But Yaz is one of those brands that there's been so many lawsuits, so many deaths. You know, we interview a bunch of families that have lost their daughter to NuvaRing, to Yaz, to lots of different methods, brands and stuff. And yeah, it's really, it's a low number of women that are dying, but when it's your family member, you know,
they're still dying.
It's really, really, really awful. And they, you know, these companies like Merck and Bayer, they, in their budget, they budget the payouts for these families. And then when they pay out these families, they have a gag order and they can't speak. And so it's just the suppressing of this information that, you know, if it was my daughter, I'd want to know that there is a risk. It's a very, very, very small risk, but there is a risk. And so you can make that choice based on what you know, you know?
That's a very high stake risk when you're looking at death, but just the fact that we're now, I guess, only recently figuring out that it's actually messing with the hormones of young women. And I don't know how does the movie talk about like the long-term effects of being on it?
And we don't even know what the long-term effects are. I mean, every woman is different, and it changes who you are, like foundationally. It changes your personality. It changes, you know, and it can be very slight, and some women they don't notice any difference, and some women, it's like they have this adverse reaction. And I mean, I consider the people who do have a bad reaction, like you having this bad reaction to Yaz, I mean, your body was rejecting it. Like, again, you're like the lucky one. You know, I took it for so long, and then I had the IUD that had the hormones. I did that, you know, and I didn't treat it with like the reverence that I think you should. You know, it's a big deal to, you know, it's not just like they make it seem like it's candy. Like, it's just, you know.
It's really well said, I think, with the reverence, because it's a very big decision. And if you're making a big decision but told it's not, then that's not a free choice. You're being coerced or gaslit. Into the idea.
I was just going to say, there's so much gaslighting that goes on. And I don't think doctors are bad. Is that my husband? I don't think doctors are bad, or, you know, I just think the system is set up, particularly in this country. You know, you don't get that time with your care provider. You don't get to hear the pros and cons in these decisions. You know, you get 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they're being pushed these products from, I don't know if you saw Dope Sick, but the series about the opioid crisis and the salesmen that go and they were, you know, selling these things that were killing, you know, droves and droves of people. It's the same kind of thing with these drugs, these birth control drugs.
It's like, it's a profit machine. And the more that you want to talk about it, that may reduce the profit, the more it threatens it. And that, I think that's what's really admirable about making the films you make, because you're challenging the status quo in a way that's forcing them to react. But at the same time as whatever you, like, it's harder to sell your film, but, you know, there's outlets like what we're doing here, and I'm sure there's lots of people lining up that have audiences that can help you spread this message, because the more people become aware, the more women recognize that it's their choice. It doesn't have to be one way, it doesn't have to be the other, but to have the information to critically think and to make these choices on our own. I mean, that's the beauty of what this information age is right now.
Yes.
And harnessing that is so important. Especially coming out of this time, like with COVID and everything, people are waking up being like, wow, maybe for the first time ever.
The CDC doesn't really know.
Yeah.
You know, when they promise you get this vaccine, you're never going to get COVID again. Oops, they were wrong about that.
Right.
You know? Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like this veil that we're all just like, we need to get rid of that and just everything be in the light. And
And in this new documentary, The Business of Birth Control, you know, for people watching and listening to this right now, do you guys also explore different ways that we can approach this?
Yes. We look at the fertility awareness method, which, you know, is not pull and pray. It's not the pull out method. It's scientific. You know, you learn how your body works. How, you know, true body autonomy, knowing, you know, I mean, so many women didn't know that you only can get pregnant, 4 or 5 days out of the month.
Right.
You know, so we do look at that. We do look at non-hormonal options. There are things that are coming on the market. Femtech is kind of exploding, but there's still not a lot of options, certainly not a lot of options for men, because men would not tolerate taking these drugs. Like, it just would never happen. But I think, you know, I mean, I don't know what to think, because it's interesting. Like, I've been pitching this, you know, this movie, and I don't know what I would do with the climate that we're in the United States right now. And if I was a 20-year-old watching this movie, like, would I feel comfortable going off of my hormonal birth control with the risk of maybe getting pregnant and being in a state that I can't get an abortion or access to abortion pills if I need, you know? So I don't know. I just know what I'm learning now as a 54-year-old woman who still has a regular cycle, but my husband had a vasectomy. I'm not, you know, pregnancy is not an issue for me. I don't know. I feel like we have to have this conversation. Yeah. We have to talk about it, you know? And I think the movie also, shows the history of the pill and how it was amazing at that time for women to have, to be able to control their fertility, thank God for the workforce, for those glorious Dynam heroes out there. It's an amazing thing that we have, but that we're still taking our grandmother's pill from 60 years ago. We need more innovation, and we need, I don't know. I want women to really care about this issue,
They should, because it's our bodies and it's our right.
There's sovereignty.
It's our
Everybody.
sovereignty, yeah.
Absolutely.
Like we have the right to know what we're putting into our bodies and how it's causing our bodies to react and what it does in a long-term effect for our health. It's important.
Yeah.
We have the right to have that information. And so it's amazing that you guys are doing this. So how can, for everybody, man and women listening to and watching this episode right now, how can they watch this new film?
They can see it on our website. Now, it depends internationally, because we're trying to still sell it in different territories. They can go to thebusinessofbirthcontrol.com is the easiest place to find it. They can also find The Business of Being Born there. All of our films are up there. And we have a masterclass series also that we've done because, again, when we made The Business of Being Born, the first question people would ask at the talk back is what's a doula? Can you imagine? 14 years ago, what's a doula? Yeah. And so we did a follow-up series, the one you saw with the farm. With this, there's so much jam-packed into 90 minutes, covering the racism piece and all of, the stuff we cover, that we were doing a masterclass body literacy series that's 9 parts that goes deeper into PCOS, endometriosis, how to get off the pill, or hormonal birth control if you choose in a safe way, supplement, so it's just jam-packed with more information.
That's amazing. Okay, well, we'll definitely include all of the links in the show notes here.
Thank you.
And check it out.
And as you keep pushing forward with this film, what do you think is next for you?
You mean, what I right now, I don't necessarily feel a documentary is next for me. I don't know, but it changes on a dime. Like I said, I'm so impulsive and stuff comes my way. I'm working on my own podcast now, which is about my old talk show. It's a little lighter. The content's a little bit lighter. It's called Raised by Ricki, and that's my latest project. And I'm co-hosting with this great guy named Kalen Allen. He's fantastic. And we're basically looking at my old show, which is 30 years ago. This is the 30-year anniversary of the pilot of the Ricki Lake show. Wow. So we're going back and looking at it from the cultural standpoint, historically, the impact that we made at, and we did. I used to kind of poo-poo my show, it was just a lot of fluff and nonsense. But we really did, for that gay kid that grew up in the middle of nowhere, that was able to turn on the television and see people that look like them and sound like them, and they come out and they're okay. I do think there was a power in that show and a phenomenon that it was the voice for the underdog, for the marginalized, for the misunderstood. And it's been really fun and cathartic for me to go back and look at these shows, and what else is next for me? I don't know. I'm living my best life. I am here in my beautiful sacred home with my beautiful partner. My kids are healthy and happy and out of the house, because that is the best. Being an empty nester is one of those. I was not one of those moms when I dropped my kid at college. I was not crying. I was like, have fun, it's me time in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm still, of course, there for my kids, and I love my kids, and I have 6 now with my new husband. Wow. But I really am enjoying this time. It's the best time of my life, to be honest. And as I say that, the world feels like it's imploding. I don't lose sight of how bad things are in every aspect of the world, from the environment to war to, the racism and the divisiveness and our political climate. It's suffocating. Yeah. But I live in gratitude. I live in total So I'm so grateful for this life I've had, this career I've had, and this particular time in my life.
That's really beautiful.
That is very beautiful.
Thank you.
It's that.
My truth.
That's, especially in a time when, a lot of people can get consumed by everything that's going on in the world. And
I do get consumed, and I do get, I told you I'm like a total warrior, and I am not the person you want in a crisis. Like 9/11, I was a shit show, and when, reading you that article, this gloom and doom article, but I'm pretty positive person, and, I have the best life. I wouldn't change a thing. I've gone through so much. I'm losing my beloved to suicide and bipolar disorder. living through 9/11 was really, really, really so traumatizing for me. But then like the gifts that come out of living through that trauma, and like the business of being born would not have happened had I not had that experience. Like, that one led to the other in a very, I see the dots, it was very clear. Like I wanted to find my purpose, and what do I stand for? What do I believe in? And I feel like, I'm doing that. I'm on my path. I don't think I'm done.
Yeah.
But
that's a good feeling.
Yes,
but I also really like being a lady of leisure.
it's a good balance.
In the boo.
Yeah. On purpose, but also having time for just
balance.
being.
I have a really great balance. And my husband is a corporate attorney, a good attorney. He doesn't litigate. He doesn't fight. He builds companies. He works with VCs and entrepreneurs. And he's just such a good, solid person who's like also paid his dues, made so many sacrifices for his family, done the right thing. He was devout Mormon until he was 35. Wow. So he was like being groomed to be a bishop until he was 35. Wow. So this is a man that didn't have any fun until now.
Look over your shoulder.
And I'm bringing him to Burning Man next year.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So cool. Balance is really important. Like family and just doing good work, being a good person, having gratitude, and having so much fun.
That's so cool.
And making a huge impact, because that's what you're doing. Speaking from a personal perspective, but also all the people and all the women that you're touching with all your work. So thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, it is my pleasure. Yeah. It's truly my honor. It's what I was meant to do. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been so beautiful. Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh,
wonderful.
Amazing.
And what was it like working with John Waters so much?
Oh my God, he's so great. He's so great. I talk about him because I had him on my podcast.
Oh, you did? Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
Which was fun because he was on my old show. He was on a couple times. Mm-hmm. And he's making another movie. He just got greenlit his latest book is called Liar Mouth, and it's being turned into a film. So I would imagine I'll be in it.
I'm hoping.
Right? But he's amazing. There's no one else like him. He's just like a true auteur. He's just like, he's never directed anyone else's piece. He's from his mind.
That's what's so fascinating about him and his body of work.
And a lot of my art in this house is his.
Really?
I have probably 10 pieces of his. That's one of his pieces up there. The one over here. There's the divine one on the other side over the dining room. Yeah, no, he's a visual artist. He's a writer. He's a filmmaker, and the best mentor I could ever ask for.
Yeah, because he really took you under.
Yeah, I was his muse. Divine was the original muse, but I did 5 movies with him. 3 I starred in: Hairspray, Serial Mom, and Crybaby.
Yeah.
And no, he's absolutely. I credit him obviously with my career because he opened every door for me when I was 18. But also he helped keep me grounded. Like he gave me advice, and I've talked about it before, but when I was 18 and Hairspray was going to come out, and he sat me down, he's like, I just want to let you know your life is about to change. Wow. And I want you to remember these 3 things. Always stay humble, always stay true to yourself. And this is 1987, so there was no internet.
There's no means to say this.
So he said, if you're going to read and believe the good things people write about you, you're going to have to read and believe the bad.
Wow.
So basically take things with a grain of salt. Yes. Don't take, And that was when I was 18. I'm 54 now. And I feel like that advice and that time he gave to me to just kind of get me to like ground down and just, keep it in perspective. Mm-hmm. I think it's managed to keep me normal and, really pretty sane.
That's incredible. Well, in a town where normal is the abnormal.
Right, exactly. He is definitely not normal, but he's so loyal and he's so unique, and and the people that are so loyal to him, it's like family. They call it the Dreamland family. All his movies, they all take place in Baltimore. It's the same crew. And I grew up with them. It's like I haven't seen them. He hasn't made a movie in over 20 years.
That's why I'm shocked to hear it. Like, there's another one coming. That's so cool.
That's really
It's happening.
Yeah, because
so
from Pink Flamingos forward, like what a career he's had. I thought he was done. That's
no,
like
he's not done.
little-
He's 76.
Yeah, right.
And I just had dinner with him like a month and a half ago.
God.
And no, he's as busy as ever.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
amazing.
And so are you. And
I'm
that's
not that busy.
Lady
You're
of
catching
Leisure.
me on a busy week. I'm busier than I've been. I mean, I've been basically just like doing my house, like being here nesting. And since the podcast started, I'm like more
Are you doing
less available.
daily episodes for the podcast?
We are right now because we're doing for the two weeks.
Oh, wow.
So tomorrow we have Margaret Cho.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah. We're doing. It's good. People are coming on it. It's it's cool. It's really, really fun.
So I get not to keep this stretching, but like it was a great show that you did. And looking back in a time when there was no internet, when I was, going to high school and to
In Canada, in
Canada.
Vancouver, is that where you were?
I was in
Toronto?
Ajax, Ontario, so close to
Okay.
Toronto.
Okay.
But like that was a thing for us.
Yeah.
Like, it was really like it was a thing to show you that outside of the status quo, there you can fit in somewhere because there's others like you.
Yeah, and
really
the tone of our show was really something special, which I didn't think of it at the time, but like it was very much a party. Instead of it, like some other shows were like, "Ha, we gotcha!" Like it was like this like tone of like pulling, like tricks on people.
Yeah.
Ours was really a party and a feel good atmosphere, and yeah, it definitely served a purpose. When people didn't have access to therapy the way they do now, it was really like modern day therapy where you felt like you weren't alone, you felt like you were being seen and heard. And yeah. So I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it all.
It's cool to be able to look back like that and
Yes.
say that.
Totally.
I'm so happy to hear that. 'Cause there's just a lot of people that look back at the things they did and they're like, oh, I discredit
I love
it,
everything. Okay, maybe there's a few things. Hosting Charm School, definitely one I could have done without, but they paid me a lot of money, but all of it's been a learning experience, all of it. Doing Celebrity X Factor in England, that was amazing because I get kicked off the first week. Simon Cowell told me I sounded like a rehearsal, but I got paid all this money and I got to live in London for 3 months and not have to work on that show. So all of it's been worth it.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Ricki.
Yeah,
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
so
you
much.
both. What a
Awesome.
beautiful couple you guys are. Make
gosh.
another baby, will ya?
Oh my goodness. Amazing.
Well, thank you.
And that's
Yay.
a wrap. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Amazing.